it needs to bolster its military to counter a U.S. plan to put more fighter jets on the ground in South Korea. And we've got all these other problems spread out around the world anyway that we're trying to take care of, and now this. And the U.S. plans to deploy more fighters following the departure of the aircraft carrier Kitty Hawk from the region. It was redeployed to support the war on terrorism. North Korea is condemning the U.S. plan to deploy more jets, saying it increases tensions on the divided Korean peninsula. North Korea's ruling party newspapers said the present complicated situation compels the North to boost its military with heightened vigilance. And we've got to be pals with China. You know why we got to be pals with China? Because there's tunnels that go from Afghanistan all the way into China. Nobody's reporting that on the news, are they? There's lots and lots of stuff that's not getting reported with our edited news. That's just the way it is. Sometimes you have to go around and look for this kind of stuff, and maybe the news industry doesn't think that people would find it interesting that there's tunnels from Afghanistan into China. I thought it was fairly interesting. Hi, Larry, you're on the air.
How you doing, Gilly?
All right.
First of all, I would like to react to something you said to a previous caller.
Okay.
When you called Americans arrogant sons of bitches.
We have been known to...
We are indeed. However, we are also the most open-handed sons of bitches you ever want to see.
Well, we help more people.
We have given away more material and money and asked for less in return than anyone else in history. End of story.
Well, that's right. We give away money to people like Pakistan, and then when we cut off giving them money, then they think we hate them. And then now we have to help them out again. I mean, it's just you look at world politics, and it's just a big chess game of push up some despot, prop him up in some area of the world because we've got another problem over here, and we don't. You know what I mean? It's just the shuffling of people who we like and who we don't like.
My friend, if you're looking for an argument, you better find another subject. I would like to say this.
Yes.
You were speaking earlier about your involvement with the Vietnam War. I had a little more intimate involvement. I pulled 2 tours over there.
Okay.
And I belong to an internet group that there's about 300 of us across the country that email back and forth. And about a week and a half ago, I got a very interesting email message. It said that the Gold Star Mothers Association, are you familiar with them?
A little bit. Why don't you refresh my memory?
The Gold Star Mothers is an association of mothers who have lost children in combat.
Okay.
Or in military service.
Right.
They were going around and meeting with all of the senators. One senator refused to meet with the Gold Star Mothers Association. That would be the junior senator from New York.
Hillary Clinton.
I hate to use the name, but you are correct, sir.
Did you see any of that concert last night? It's any wonder she gets booed.
No, as a matter of fact, I don't have very good feelings toward the entertainment elite, shall we say?
Me neither. I just watched it because it was on and I happened to be sitting there.
Well, see, I kind of had that rubbed in my nose when Jane sat in that anti-aircraft gun and haven't put up with it since.
Hanoi Jane Fonda.
That would be her.
Yeah. It's interesting that these people come out of the woodwork when something like this happens. They had Richard Gere, apparently, where is this? The awkward moments of last night. Support for unity across party lines that the crowd showed Tom Daschle did not extend to Hillary Clinton. Richard Gere's calls for compassion and understanding rather than violence and revenge drew jeers, which the actor laughed off, perhaps reflecting his non-confrontational Buddhist beliefs.
And not only that, but his non-combat status in the past.
Well, what these people should do is, if that's the way they feel, put a sock in it and don't give them a forum to be able to speak their piece.
Well, that, or perhaps they should move to a country where their views are more acceptable to the public at large.
I wonder how many movie tickets Richard Gere could sell in Nepal.
I don't know. If he went to India, he could probably sell quite a few because they have a very good movie industry.
Well, they do, yeah.
But they only pay 8 cents a ticket, so he would probably get $1,000 a picture.
Yeah, wouldn't be enough money for him.
Bummer. Have a good one, my friend.
All right, talk to you later. Why? I wonder why. We're checking that out as I speak. We're trying to get on the internet and find out why Hillary Clinton would not meet with the Gold Star Mothers. Well, apparently, I've said for a long time that I thought Bubba was our president because it was like his chance at a shot at acting. And he got to act like a president. He didn't even act like a president. He acted like a bad president. But hey, what do I know? You want to email me if you cannot get through on the phone lines? Gilly, Gilly, at WTAM.com. And if it's interesting and pertinent to the program, I will read it on the air. Now, with coverage of what in the world's happening, here's our very own Cliff Bakley.
Continuing coverage on Cleveland's only news radio, WTAM 1100, a service of Clear Channel Worldwide.
Postal workers have anthrax. Good evening. I'm Cliff Bakley, and this is the 9:30 report on News Radio, WTAM 1100. Details coming up. Channel 3 weather from Eileen McShay. Showers tonight, maybe even a thunderstorm, the low 50. Tomorrow, a morning shower, otherwise mostly cloudy and temperatures in the mid to upper 60s. Currently 58 degrees at your official weather station, News Radio, WTAM 1100.
America United. America Strikes Back. Our in-depth team coverage continues right now.
A week after a letter to Senate Majority Leader Tom Daschle tested positive for anthrax, the U.S. Capitol building will open for business tomorrow. Congress will be in session on Tuesday. Their office buildings, though, will be closed on Monday. A postal worker in the nation's capital is being treated for inhaled anthrax. The man is said to be in serious but stable condition at a Virginia hospital. D.C. Mayor Anthony Williams says about 2,000 postal employees will be tested for anthrax.
We're now moving toward a new strategy, and that strategy is based on what we've done consistently, where we have confirmed cases to go in on a conservative basis, on an aggressive basis, and make sure that everyone's getting the treatment they deserve as soon as they need that treatment.
Officials in Bolivar County, Mississippi are looking into an incident involving a crop dusting plane. It circled over and sprayed a pleasure craft on the river Friday.
And we still need to try to find out who was on that pleasure craft. And we also need to find anybody who has information on what the tail numbers of that airplane may be. County
Director of Emergency Management Kent Buckley. Daria Albinger, ABC News.
This was the game Browns fans looked forward to for almost 6 years. Browns defeated the Super Bowl champion Baltimore Ravens, the Art Modell team that left town 24-14. The Highway Patrol's investigating the death of 20-year-old Joseph Clausen early this morning in Medina County. Patrol Lieutenant Eric Shepard says it appears the driver was not paying attention and drove his pickup truck off the road into a ditch.
Rolled over, struck a couple telephone poles. The driver was ejected, and he was pinned underneath the vehicle at the time of arrival.
The crash this morning happened on Route 42, just south of Westfield Township. I'm Cliff Bakley on Cleveland's only news radio, WTAM 1100.
They do not identify at all with these expressions of Islam.
Terrorists are traitors to their own faith, trying in effect to hijack his...
The September 11th attacks are reverberating in the usually staid world. Staid, nice word. World of textbook publishing. New editions of McGraw-Hill's history textbooks were ready for the printer when the hijacked planes crashed into the World Trade Center and the Pentagon, and now they're horribly outdated. The challenge for Macmillan McGraw-Hill was to update the books and still meet deadlines that dictate that the books be on the market by early February. Writers accustomed to spending months, even years, poring over the importance of world events had only weeks to make sense of the attacks and place them in a context that even young children can understand for years to come. The tight deadline also meant that publishers had to decide quickly whether to include references to Osama bin Laden, the accused mastermind behind the attacks. That bothers me as well, because I think, well, if you think that getting rid of Osama bin Laden and members of Al-Qaeda are going to get rid of terrorism, you're wrong. What I'm afraid of is when Osama bin Laden is finally proclaimed dead, is that going to be a trigger for something else? It's what bothers me the most. Hi, Dwayne, you're on the air.
Good evening, Rick.
Hello.
You know, there's a few things that really upset me, and one is these protesters against the war that America has waged against terrorists in Afghanistan. I am completely outraged that these people are clueless on what it takes for freedom in America. These are the same people that want their electric turned on so they can use their computers and watch their TVs. It's the same people that want to be able to pull into a gas station and make sure there's always gas for their vehicles. They want to go in their little cozy homes and turn the heat on and just kick back and have life cozy. They think that we're going to sit down and negotiate. These people just do not understand that the vast majority of these people in the Middle East, they hate us. They want death and destruction at all costs. And what they did to the trade towers, how can they turn around and protest against Bush and his administration?
Well, there are some people that will complain about just about anything, like you said. They're the first ones to complain when their lights aren't on. Now they don't understand that. I guess I could understand why there were protesters against the Vietnam War, because there were a lot of people that didn't understand what was going on or didn't think we should have been involved. This is a direct attack on America, and it's an act of war.
Absolutely. I agree wholeheartedly. Vietnam was a chess game that we had no business being in, but they came on our land and just wiped out innocent people that were clueless, and they pray to their God and think they're Allah, that they're automatically, by doing this, they're going to heaven because they kill a great Satan. Now, for what it's worth, my God is Jesus Christ that I worship, and nowhere in his teachings do we go kill Islams or Muslims or Buddhists or New Agers, whatever they're believing, and we automatically go to heaven. How can people be brainwashed to believe that if you kill a Christian or an American, you automatically go to the golden gates?
God knows. Unbelievable. Dwayne, it's unbelievable. All right, Bernie, you're on the air.
Yes, something that I think that we're not hearing enough of is this description of the madrasas. And these are these schools where children are indoctrinated. Peter Fritsch wrote an article October 2nd in this week's Wall Street Journal, front page. But these are the numbers. It's 6,000 to 7,000 of these schools teaching over 700,000 students in Pakistan alone. Now, Rick, I don't know if you saw Nightline. They showed you the pictures of what they're like, but they didn't give you those numbers or who's paying for those schools. And what you saw are children, sometimes taken at the age of 2.5. All of them are taken from their parents. They showed them rocking back and forth. They study from 5:30 in the morning to 5:30 in the afternoon. What are they doing? They're memorizing the Quran. That's all except for 1 hour of other studies. The Quran is not in their language. After they memorize the Quran, which supposedly takes approximately 3 years, according to Fritsch, then they learn the language. What else are they doing? After that, at night, they're learning martial arts and the use of weapons. They had a 6-year-old boy on Nightline speaking before thousands, saying that he is going to take out the eyes of Americans with his fingers. That's our future. Now, the question is, how many madrasas are there throughout the Middle East? According to Fritsch's article, where's the money coming from? Iran, Iraq, Saudi Arabia, funneled through charities. Again, why aren't we hearing about that? But something else that I want to add, a couple other comments. You were talking about Bill Clinton.
Yes.
What's he doing in Harlem? Why hasn't he taken those offices to a less populated area? And are we finally going to hear, after all this time, something that I have always stated was the reason why he committed perjury? Is he finally giving Monica Lewinsky Secret Service protection of any kind? Are they paying for that? Maybe we should ask Hillary Clinton. But in closing, this is something else. Is there a proportion of the population that is more vulnerable to a bioterrorism attack? And isn't the media, to some degree, responsible for creating that proportion of the population, thereby undercutting our deterrence? What am I talking about? I'm talking about sexually transmitted diseases. The media has been broadcasting sexual scripts, no public health messages, and I want to know, we've got 800,000 to 900,000 HIV positive members of our population. Do they know how they're going to react to a possible bioterrorism attack? What about the smallpox vaccination? Supposedly, that can possibly be fatal.
Yes, to people especially with a bad immune system.
Exactly. Do you think they're going to be lining up to take that vaccination? Won't they possibly be carriers? And let me add 2 more things, and then I'll let other callers come in, because this is something that I saw up close and personal. I spoke to 127 young adults locally. I asked them one question. If you have unsafe sex and you go to get tested and you're HIV negative, does that mean you're safe to have sex with? Only 13% knew the answer. 13%. The answer is you have to wait a 6-month period of time to get tested again. If you're HIV negative after 6 months and you haven't had unsafe sex, then you are state-defined safe according to, at least as far as the HIV virus is concerned. Now, my question is, what happens with rape? We've got 22% of women, 2% of men, according to Satcher's report, are raped. Those women that are raped now are going to have to wait 6 months, not just to find out if they're HIV negative, but also to find out whether or not they might be more vulnerable to a bioterrorist attack. And my last comment is this.
Yes.
Something that Satcher wrote 2 reports. This is something that hasn't been put in the PD. although they wrote quite a lot of articles about it. The second report was changed. It was published July 9th. He added one paragraph, and it was about the HPV virus, and I'll only summarize it. I won't read it to you. But what the HPV virus does is it gives women cervical cancer. Now, according to him, 14,000 new cervical cancer cases per year are attributable to the HPV virus. This is a virus that is skin-to-skin contact. Safe sex is not defined through the use of a condom. Why aren't we hearing about this? Will these women with cervical cancer also be more vulnerable to a bioterrorism attack? Where is the public media in regard to this? Thank you very much, Rick.
Well, you're more than welcome. Yeah, I sat here listening to Bernie, and I kept thinking to myself, well, he's making a lot of interesting points that, you know what, unfortunately, a lot of people probably don't even care about. And they're just overwhelmed with everything. And they just sit around, and that's what happens when we have a national crisis, and people say, I sat around and I thought, Jesus, if we don't have enough things going on in our life to worry about, now this is thrown in the mix. And then what if, and what if, and what if, and what if? What are you supposed to do, go hide in your cellar? What do you do to cope with this? How do you deal with it? I deal with things like this by compartmentalizing and shutting it out. I'll watch it on the television, I'll read it in the newspaper, I'll absorb the information, and I try, because I have to sit here and regurgitate it, I'll try to just absorb it and not try to let it affect me. And it's pretty hard sometimes to read some of this stuff and to see some of the people and how it's affected. And the one thing I've noticed, and I've paid more attention to since September 11th, is every day 10 more Palestinians killed, 10 more Israelis killed, this, that. I never paid any attention. Did you ever pay any attention to any of that before this? Never. It was like, okay, there's something happening in another part of the world, and I've got other things to do. And now you realize that terrorism has just finally come home to America and directly affects us. Because apparently that email that I read was right. I mean, that lengthy 4-pager, America didn't care. We just didn't care. It didn't seem to bother us if we lost servicemen in some other part of the world. That was, that's really too bad. Feel bad for the families. It didn't seem to affect our daily lives. Now our daily lives revolve around this. Revolve around anthrax and worrying about opening your mail. And people only have so much capacity, I think, people only have so much capacity for stress. You know, I spoke with a doctor that told me that stress relievers like Valium and sleep aids are being prescribed at an all-time high. Perhaps this will come back to bite me, sitting here doing programs like this. Because there's going to come a time when people are going to say, I can't listen to this anymore. Have we reached that point? Are we getting to the point where, aside from the people like Bernie that study this sort of thing as a hobby, are we getting to that? Call and tell me. I mean, are we getting to the point where people are going to say, I need some other sort of diversion? I tune on the radio and all I hear is, I don't know. I mean, I know that I've been instructed that this is America United. That's the program I'm doing. They never tell me what to talk about. They never tell me content. But I was instructed that this is what I will talk about. This is what's important. This is what I will talk about. Most of the folks on this station talk sports, and that is a diversion. And I found it extremely diverting last Saturday to watch that Indians game, the 17-2. And to me, it gave me a chance. I had the game on. I'm listening to the radio in the basement. I'm working on the house. I go upstairs. I can watch it on TV while I'm grabbing more stuff to take down the basement and listening to the one on the radio down there. And I forgot all about this stuff going on for at least a couple hours. And it was very cathartic. I think it's important. And people are talking about canceling Halloween. An old lady calls there and says she's not going to hand out candy because she's afraid she's going to open her apartment door and Osama bin Laden's going to be standing there or something. Who knows? Certain things we should be afraid of, and then certain other things, it just seems like I was just handed this notice. With regard to the Newsmax article concerning our organization, the American Gold Star Mothers Incorporated deeply regret the misunderstanding about Senator Clinton. The two mothers who visited Washington did not have an appointment with the senator, and she was not in her office on that day. We would appreciate it if the emails and negative comments about Senator Clinton would cease. Signed, Georgiana Carter Krell. She's got enough names for 3 people, doesn't she? National President of the American Gold Star Mothers. Well, you've probably got plenty enough other reasons, don't you, to complain? about Senator Clinton. If I lived in New York, I wouldn't even have voted her in. She just lollygagged her way over from Washington and used her name recognition to get elected as a senator, and she's not even... Don't they have enough people in New York that they could find some qualified candidate? Monday night on the big one, you can hear the John Lucas Show, Browns Primetime with Mike Snyder and Hanford Dixon, and Sportsline with Kevin Keene. All the balls right here. Channel 3 weather from Eileen McShay. Tonight, thunderstorms possible, a low of 50. Tomorrow, shower in the morning, and it should clear out, upper 60s. Let's look ahead farther, shall we, Shar? Tuesday, a chance of rain and 70. Currently, 58 degrees in Cleveland, 58. I mean, you call and tell me. I mean, are we getting to the saturation point? I can sit here, literally, I could go to the AP wire, and I swear to you, I could pull 100 stories just from today, and 55 to 60 of them would have the headline Anthrax. I could literally sit here until midnight reading things, just reading off the wire. And people are, I don't know, are you getting to the saturation point? I mean, I'm cautious. I think about it. I think about when I open my mail. If I get a letter that I don't recognize who it's from, it's going to go right in the garbage, especially at work. If I get a letter at home, it has no return address, and I don't know who it is, well, guess what? It's going right in the garbage. If you're on the line, be patient. I'll get to you.
The Glenn Beck Program.
Homogenized, generic, mundane, corporate radio.
Glenn Beck's Top 40.
It's time for our long-distance dedication. It says, Dear Casey, your voice sounds funny. Are you losing your hearing as well?
The Glenn Beck Program.
Weekdays, 9 a.m. WTAM 1100. WTAM 1100.
This is not a war with Islam. It angers me, as it angers the vast majority of Muslims, to hear bin Laden and his associates described as Islamic terrorists. They are terrorists, pure and simple.
The United States of America is an enemy of those who aid terrorists and of the barbaric criminals who profane a great religion by committing murder in its name.
Islam is a peaceful and tolerant religion, and the acts of these people are wholly contrary to the teachings of the Quran.
Rick Gilmore.
I don't care what color you are. Dumb is dumb. That's just dumb.
On News Radio WTAM 1100.
Bob and Garfield, you're on the air.
Hi, how you doing?
All right.
Yeah, look, I'm just going to say this, and I'm going to try to qualify it because there seems to be a war fever in this country now.
Well, there's a war in this country.
Yeah, there's a war, but, you know, I think this is wrong the way we're doing this. I mean, I think we haven't looked at why these people hate us so much. And
you would suggest no retaliation?
Yes, and not in the way that they're doing it. I would have our intelligence agencies hunt these people, cut off their cash flows, and do everything we can to isolate these people and take away their means to do these kinds of acts to this country. But I think if we kill bin Laden, I think Pakistan's going to go. I think Saudi Arabia is going to go. I think Egypt's going to go. And the reason is because these people hate our guts. And all we're going to do is make this problem worse. You know, look at after the Gulf War. I think the reason this happened is because of the Gulf War. And I think we're going to go make another war over there. And then we're going to have an atom bomb go off over here, a nuclear bomb, a nuclear device. I think it's just going to get worse until we figure out why these people hate us so much and take measures along those lines.
So actually, then what you're saying is that they hate our guts, and there's, in your mind, a good reason why, and we should fix that problem, and that we somehow almost deserved what we got.
No, we don't. We don't deserve what we got. No one deserves to have anything like that happen to them. But
see, the wrench in the works there, Bob, is human nature. And we've got an awful lot of people in this country that, how many people have you bumped into that said, bomb the hell out of them? I mean, lots and lots and lots of people are out there yelling, bomb the hell out of them. So we're doing these intelligence measures, and we're trying to find out why they hate our guts, and we're bombing the hell out of them.
Yeah, but I think bombing the hell out of them is only going to make it worse. And I'm just going to say this. Look, after the Gulf War, you know, we talk about we lost, 4,800 people in there. And that's terrible. You know, it's terrible to lose those people. But after the Gulf War, now the figures I've seen from Dr. Joyce Riley and other means, about 12,000 veterans have died from that Gulf War illness. And there's no concerts or benefits for them. There's nothing. So, I'm just going to say, as a disabled veteran, I've seen the way people in this country have really put no value in the life of our military, people in the military. Like after those Marines, 270 Marines and sailors were bombed in Beirut, we haven't even gone looking for those people. So I'm just saying, when I look at human life, the way Americans value human life, they really don't have, it's inconsistent. That's why, let's just say these people died in a cause, and we should honor them. But let's not make it worse. Let's not do things that are going to cause some cataclysmic result in the world.
Well, I'm with you there, Bob. I mean, I don't want World War III. I just think that they sit around and at some point they think, and this is what's sad, is they think, well, if we want to keep America's attention and not lose popularity in the polls, we've got to do limited military strikes.
Okay, if they got to do limited military strikes. So,
and that's what they're doing now, at least in their mind.
But when we say we're going to go and kill bin Laden, I think that makes bin Laden a kind of mystical figure in that world. And even after we kill him, I think it's going to be like, in the memory of bin Laden, we're going to go here. We're going to make this guy into a god.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I'm up on the news, but I appreciate you checking in. Absolutely. Osama bin Laden will then be thought of as a martyr who died for the cause of wacko terrorists. And that's not going to stop the wacko terrorists. And it's not going to stop terrorism. It's going to be a long... I said on this program, 4 weeks ago? 4 weeks ago, we said on this program it was going to be a long, long war, and now yesterday it finally comes out in the Plain Dealer on page A8. Yeah, it's going to be a 10-year war. Going to be a long time. So fasten your seatbelts, because it is. It's going to be a long, long time before any of this is figured out. Now with coverage of what in the world's happening, here's Cliff Bakley.
Cleveland's only news radio. Your official weather station. The home of the Indians, Cavaliers, and Browns fans. This is the big one. Now, continuing coverage on News Radio, WTAM 1100, Cleveland.
The Capitol reopens, but not the congressional offices. Good evening. I'm Cliff Bakley. This is the 10 o'clock report on News Radio, WTAM 1100. Details coming up. Channel 3 weather. Here's Eileen McShay.
Showers and maybe a thunderstorm this evening. Mostly cloudy overnight. Lows near 50. Monday's highs in the mid to upper 60s.
Currently 58 degrees at your official weather station, News Radio, WTAM 1100.
America United. America Strikes Back. Our in-depth team coverage continues right now.
The U.S. Capitol building will reopen tomorrow, a week after a letter sent to Senate Majority Leader Tom Daschle tested positive for anthrax.
Based on the advice of scientists and healthcare professionals, though, the House and Senate leaders have determined that the United States Capitol will be open for legislative business tomorrow.
That's Lieutenant Dan Nichols with the U.S. Capitol Police. The House and Senate offices, however, will still be closed. The letter to Daschle and one sent to NBC News anchor Tom Brokaw both had postmarks from Trenton, New Jersey. The state's acting health commissioner, Dr. George D. Ferdinando, says state officials are now trying to determine which postal workers in that state, if any, may most be at risk.
What they were working on was figuring out exactly who was closest to those lines, and also making sure that they can get in contact with people to follow them over the coming days.
An employer at a major D.C. area postal facility is being treated for inhaled anthrax. He's at a suburban Virginia hospital. Daria Albinger, ABC News.
Continuing coverage coming up at the bottom of the hour. Bulletins at 1. News Radio, WTAM 1100.
This country will not relent until we have saved ourselves and others from the terrible tragedy that came upon America.
America United.
Deliberate and deadly attacks against our country were more than acts of terror. They were acts of war.
Rick Gilmour on News Radio WTAM 1100.
Well, I'm just going to get right to the callers. Phone number here, 578-1100 in the 216 area code. Toll free, 888-723-WTAM. Number of topics on the table, all, of course, related to the war on terrorism. I'm looking up the big board. Anthrax, comments on the last caller, protesters Protesters. We have no time. What is it a protest? We might kill innocent people. Well, we've had a long history of killing innocent people, and guess what? They killed 6,000 innocent Americans. There's going to be some killing going on. That's just, I guess, why they call it war, huh? Juanita, you're on the air.
Hello.
Howdy.
Yes, I've got a question, or maybe it's a comment. Why does everyone want to know why don't they like America? What does that have to do with anything? I mean, I don't like President Bush, but I don't want to kill him.
Well, that's part of...
I don't like AM radio, but I'm not going to, it's too staticky for me, but I'm not going to go blow up a radio station.
Not the big one. You couldn't have static from the big one.
No, I love you guys, but I'm saying, what is the importance of knowing why they don't like Americans? They don't like Americans because we can talk on the radio about this, because we can send their children to school, and I don't understand. We've got such a...
Because there are Islam fundamentalists who do not want... It is, in their mind, a sin against the Quran and Allah and all that to have American influence and American air bases and American soldiers on their soil.
Okay, well, I understand this, but why are Americans... What do we want to do? Have them come here and hold their hand and say, why don't you like us, guys? I mean, I think it's such a really wimpy attitude for Americans to think that we're going to be able to talk this thing out. We're dealing with people that are not American. They don't have the compassion that we have. It's not in their heart, period. And, I keep hearing callers say, well, why don't they don't like America? And let's find that out. Like, that's going to solve anything. It doesn't matter. They don't like our freedom.
Well,
but it's freedom that they come to this country, and they...
I'll put you down in the bomb the hell out of them category.
Pretty much so, sure.
Okay,
I was in the military, and I mean, I wish that I could go back in. I'm at the age where it's a little too late, and I'm not trying to go over there and just bomb them, but this is the right action for the country to take. If not, it will go on, and for people to... One more thing, Saddam Hussein, he doesn't like America. But Saddam Hussein never came to America to do anything. I mean, I feel sorry for the families who lost people in the embassy bombing. But, hey, that was on different soil. They came to America, and they have to be dealt with.
I'm with you. All right, Juanita. I mean, bombing the hell out of them, I suppose, is a strong way to put it. But I am with you as far as I think what we're doing is the right thing. And I think that these limited strikes, we've given them a couple of chances, haven't we? When we even said, okay, well, time for you to rethink that idea that there's no negotiation whatsoever. Time for you to think that over again. Joined on the line here by Norm Ezzy.
Rick.
Now, Norm, you represent an organization called We the People, and I'm going to preface your phone call by saying that the last time I had you on, you were on as a guest for 4 hours, and they slapped me around because there were some questions of credibility. So I'm going to slap you around a little bit, and I want you to explain what We the People is.
Okay.
Go right ahead. Explain what the organization is, how many members you have, that sort of thing.
Well, the fact is, from your program, that episode that we did 4 weeks ago, we've increased, it's hard to imagine, up to 1,600 viable people via the internet and the website. But,
this is a non-profit organization?
Well, this is just a grassroots organizations of mom and pops, retired military people, cops and robbers, guys that just, pipe fitters, steel haulers, chicken haulers, bakery workers, doctors, lawyers, retired federal investigators, former Justice Department people, a couple of federal judges. I mean, it's just mushroomed into something that I cannot, comprehend.
Now, may also explain that some of your sources are currently drawing a military pension and or are in the military and thus don't want their names used?
Well, we can use Admiral Thomas More for one, right out of the gate, and Randy Cunningham, Duncan Hunter, Congress people that are in the office right now as far as my sources go. But the sad part about it is you've got to spend literally 18, 19 hours a day to decipher fact from fiction, and finally, let's pull the lungs out, let's go on the air, and let's cut loose what's really going on, like what I want to do tonight with you about the Quran, for one, which nobody's speaking about. and I want to do a couple other things. But as far as things that people need to know, where this isn't Star Trek information, from Nestor Webster to a lot of people that wrote books, from Elizabeth Dilling, Carol Quigley, which was Bill Clinton's mentor, his professor, with the book Tragedy and Hope, from Senator John Kerry, the New War, Caspar Weinberger, the coming war with China. I mean, their books are out there, but people go and they pick up the Playboy or the Penthouse and they don't read, or they pick up Sports Illustrated and want to get the racing form. It's all there, and unfortunately, I'm a very passionate fellow. And you need to understand, if you study our history, our world history and American history, it will reveal a lot about what's going to happen to our future. And folks, this didn't happen by accident. I'll give you references.
Norm, before you say something, let me ask you this. Are you on a cell phone?
No.
Okay, you've got a bad connection here. We've got a bad line. Can I get you to call back?
Sure.
All right, call back, okay? I'll take a couple other callers, and then I'll get right back to you.
All right.
All right, yeah, because it was getting a little annoying, and I wanted to hear what Norm had to say about the Quran. I'm interested because, hell, I've never read the Quran. Maybe there's something in there that would help glean some information for those of us who wonder why they hate us so much. Earl, you're on the air. Earl, are you there?
Hello?
Hello.
Yeah.
You're on the air.
I just had a comment about a guy that called in and said that war was not the answer.
Oh, Bob from Garfield that said that he was a veteran, but that war was not the answer to our problems.
Yeah, and I've been hearing a lot of people say that. I don't know what these people expect us to do as a nation. I mean, come on. You got to defend your homeland. You got terrorists coming over into the country now, and they are capable of doing things we have never seen before. You got a war going on in Afghanistan, and this is the only way we are going to be able to get through this, because it's not just Afghanistan that's in on this. I mean, you've got Iraq, Saddam Hussein. I mean, he's another problem you got to worry about.
And probably Libya, and probably Lebanon, and probably, who do we go after next? We have to go after the Hezbollah. We have to go after all these other groups. They all hate our guts.
Right. Malaysia.
Indonesia.
Right. And if we don't take action now, we've already waited too long. We already waited too long.
There was already action taken against us, and for some reason, people like Bill Clinton didn't see fit that we don't need more military intelligence, do we? No, the Cold War is over. Why are we wasting money on the military?
Correct. You know, I'm a Democrat, and I voted for Clinton, and, but I didn't agree with everything that he done, I mean, it's great that the nation's coming together. I mean, the Republicans and the Democrats, and we're all trying to work together, but... it's crazy to think that there would be another way to handle this problem, because this has been going on way before any of us was born. I mean...
Well, and it's a reflection of bad politics, of bad foreign policy, and it's been that way ever since George Marshall and the Marshall Plan, and let's police force the world.
Right.
And you go around, and how many cops do you know that have their phone number listed in the phone book?
Correct.
How many cops do you know that are allowed to carry a gun for the rest of their life because of all the people they put in prison that might get out and try and kill them?
Right.
Well, that's what we're doing all around the world, and now it's reflecting on us as people, not just soldiers, because obviously bombing embassies doesn't seem to change anything. We don't change our foreign policy because there were soldiers killed in embassies, because most regular Americans didn't pay any attention and didn't care.
Right, and that's the whole thing right now is, people weren't even paying attention to any of this. And I admit it, I was one of them. I never paid attention to any of the crap that was going on in any other countries, because it just didn't grab my attention. But now, just like you were saying earlier, now every time I hear something going on in Israel or Pakistan, it really grabs my attention, and I'm grabbing onto every word of what's going on over there, because I know in some way or another that is directly going to affect what we're trying to do.
So it took a 6,000-person wake-up call.
Right. And people are saying, we're killing innocent civilians over there. Look what they done. People, wake up. They flew airplanes into our towers, and they're trying to kill us off with anthrax. And believe me, if they had a way to manipulate that germ so we could not combat it with antibiotics, they would be doing it. And there would be no stopping it. And death would be happening at your doorstep all over the country.
And most Americans don't even have bottled water. You're on the line. Be patient. I'll get to you. This is Rick Gilmour for America United. America Strikes Back on Cleveland's only news radio station, WTAM 1100.
America Strikes Back.
Your Senate's railed against the bill.
Men and women are getting ready to journey far from the shores of our nation. They are being asked to defend some of the very rights this legislation would take away.
Get more than just the headlines. News Radio WTAM 1100.
Daily use. See package for details on guarantee. Philips, light bulbs that last.
The WTAM 1100. Did Congressman set a bad example by bolting out of D.C. when Anthrax hit? Log on and vote at WTAM.com.
And now, the Taliban will pay a price.
We have now no choice, so we will act. And our determination in acting is total. We will not let up or rest until our objectives are met.
We are supported by the collective will of the world.
Rick Gilmour.
What? Stella, who is it? That's my dog.
On News Radio WTAM 1100.
Well, our cyber vote, do you think the congressional leaders set a bad example by leaving D.C. after the Anthrax scare? 76% of you say yes. How's about that? And I think it was just, it's just panic. I mean, that's basically what it is. People just panic too much. I mean, you really need to have a clear head during all this. And I guess, they plan to reopen the Capitol tomorrow. The House and Senate office buildings will remain closed until the results from testing are complete. Closures prompted by an anthrax-laced letter that arrived a week ago at Tom Daschle's office. Environmental sweep through 19 buildings on Capitol Hill continued today. Investigators found traces of anthrax in 4 of them, and 28 people tested positive for exposure, though none has been diagnosed with any disease. Last week, of course, the House shut down operations for the first time in history for the sweep. The Senate remained open, causing a rift between the two chambers. One official says House leaders are looking at Fort McNair, a military installation near the Capitol, as an alternate location for Congress to meet if the Capitol cannot be reopened. I've never heard anything like this in the entire, in history, nothing like this going on. Norm Ezzy.
Hey, Rick.
You sound a little better now on this phone line.
Okay.
The other one's kind of scratchy. Let's rock and roll here because I know we got to get some information out here, and then I got to take some phone calls. So.
Okay. Well, no, the sad part about it, what you just said about the House of Congress, that's the one thing they learned how to do real quick was run. That's sad.
Oh, it really is. I kept thinking, gee, and those people, they should be worried. I've even heard tell from some folks say that they should worry about possible kidnappings and whatnot because those people, they're not properly. Our congressional leaders are not properly protected. They don't have Secret Service, do they?
Exactly. No, they don't, and their homes don't. And I mean, they're on their own. Basically, if you really want to stop to think of it via the internet, there's no need for them to go to the Capitol. They want to, save the taxpayers' money, but that's another story in itself. Real quickly, though, and I appreciate the courtesy that you're giving me here.
Before you get going, let me get Channel 3 weather from Eileen McShade. Tonight, 50 for a low, possible thunderstorm, currently 58. Now go right ahead. You were going to say something about the Quran?
Well, first of all, what the people need to do, okay?
Yes.
You get the copy of the Talmud, the Bible, and the Quran. But in the Quran, and by the way, it's a top seller right now because everybody's trying to get up to speed. Go to the Book of Repentance.
Book of Repentance?
Yes, it's in the book. And quite honestly, I don't want to read it because I'll lose my temper, and you know how I get, Rick. So the bottom line is let the people learn, let them go to the library, read the second paragraph of the Book of the Repentance in the Quran, all right? And let's see what your callers will do when you do go back on the air. By the way, we surely hope you're on the air more frequently.
Well, what can you give us in a nutshell what it says without
basically, what it boils down to is that they will, if you don't convert to Islam, it's their duty to slay you by the sword.
And
it's in the Quran. Now, the clerics that are out there listening to the program, please, I've got the Quran right here in my hand. I've been reading it, and it's simply, for the better word that we've been using since day one, overwhelming. It's just overwhelming.
And Norm, I'll have to get a copy of that myself.
No, you really will, because people need to understand what we're talking about. Now,
can I go on the internet and read that?
I don't know about that right now, but Rick, you need to get a book called The Lexus and the Olive Tree by Thomas Friedman.
The
Lexus and the Olive Tree by Thomas L. Friedman. In the book, it's a fascinating book, ladies and gentlemen. In the book, and I don't make a dime selling nothing, folks, so believe me when I'm telling you this. It talks about the super-empowered angry man, which Osama bin Laden is. The super-empowered angry man is a man with no geographical location, no boundaries, no real armies, no nothing. And he is here, and he is among us. Now, you need to get this book. Also, another excellent book, because you asked me for documentation of what I get, is Beirut to Jerusalem by the same author. He does write for the New York Times. I am promoting his book because he was on Meet the Press, and he's on C-SPAN, and most people have jobs. They feed their families, blah, blah, blah. But they need to get this information, read it, decipher it, and understand what we're up against. We're up against basically a towel snapper with a visa that made money on our stock market that's got a poor man's atom bomb, chemical, biological, and possibly, like we said on your program 4 weeks ago, a suitcase that really doesn't work. But the components are out there, and they're feverishly trying to buy it to make these things adaptable for controlled nuclear strikes in America. This is what's not being told to the American people. They're also talking about smallpox, but they're not talking about diphtheria and also typhoid. This is in their bag of tricks, folks. Now, I want to also back it up.
Yes.
To George Bush, number one, who gave Saddam Hussein $1.5 billion worth of our technology and equipment to fight Iran. Now, for you folks that don't believe me on that one, go get the book by Alan Friedman, The Spider Web. Now, if you read these three books, I think you're all going to get really PO'd, maybe just a little bit like me. Just a little bit, because I'm probably the most angriest man in America right now, next to George Bush.
Let me ask you another question, too. For those just tuning in, Norm Ezzy was a guest on the program about a month ago. Heads a grassroots organization called We the People, and it's nonprofit. You were going to set up some possible scenarios when I spoke to you that what you think might the future of terrorism in America might hold.
Let's just pretend that New York is now downtown Beirut. You can forget the sophisticated car bombs. Kidnapping is their modus operandi of choice, because basically it takes a coward to kidnap a child off of a school bus waiting area or a school bus, because you got to understand the bottom in the final analysis of what I'm trying to talk about here. We do have the technologies to bomb these people back to the Stone Age, but guess what, folks? They're already living in the Stone Age. You follow me?
Oh, I do.
They've got the petrodollars and the narco dollars just to incite and inflict pain on basically the good American people that really at heart just get up, pull the freight, go to work, try to raise their families and do the right thing. Now we have a scenario, and going back to your boy Bill Clinton, the best president money could buy, of 8 years of a travesty with our intelligence gathering data and the people that basically decipher all these leads, just like what John Walsh in America Most Wanted. And Rick, this is very important for me to tell you with 50,000 watts, because of men like you, our grassroots organizations of We the People, which is www.storminnorm.com, is growing with other organizations that are basically, like we made the statement with the truckers that are listening to your program, those are my eyes of the night. We're like money. We don't sleep. And then we connect with the people that are in the military, active duty, here locally and abroad, because via email. And the information and the data is just growing and growing and growing. And folks, the good news is we win. We always win. But it's such a tragedy what happened in New York. And the tragedies that will befall on us, because they're here. The sleepers are here. The big problem is we're spread too thin. We've got NATO, of all things, and people are aware of NATO, 5 NATO AWACS patrolling our coastlines and our airspace. Why is that? Because of what Clinton did to our Air Force, our Air Corps. There's planes, and I'm sure people in the Air Force that are listening to me right now on your station can talk about the planes that were dismantled and laid out in Nevada. Laid out in Nevada. because we didn't have the money to keep them running.
George, I'm sorry, Norm. I almost called you George.
That's okay.
Hold on, would you? I'm gonna come back after the news, and I'm gonna take a few phone calls.
Go right ahead.
And then I'll get back to you. All right?
Let's do it.
Hold on, yeah, because I want to find out because of folks like Norm and others out there that are connected via the internet and read a lot of these books that a lot of people just don't have time to read. What are the possible scenarios of terrorism in America? What's coming next? And I think that's what everyone worries about. I'm Rick Gilmour. This is America United on Cleveland's only news radio, WTAM 1100. Now with coverage of what in the world's happening, here's Cliff Bakley.
Continuing coverage on Cleveland's only news radio, WTAM 1100, a service of Clear Channel Worldwide. 1100.
We will not tire, we will not falter, and we will not fail.
Rick Gilmour.
The old saying was run, Jesse, run.
Yeah.
The new one is pull out, Jesse, pull out.
On News Radio WTAM 1100.
This is America United. America Strikes Back. Postal Service is having more than 2,200 workers tested for exposure to anthrax. Actions were taken after it was confirmed a postal worker in the District of Columbia was diagnosed with inhaled anthrax, being treated in suburban Virginia, listed in serious but stable condition. An unidentified man is said to have been on alert enough today to... What's this? An unidentified man is said to have been alert enough today to watch... Oh, he was alert enough to watch a football game on TV. I was thinking, what does a football game on TV have to do tying into... Oh, I got you. So he must have been pretty well out of it, I guess, until today. Meanwhile, a health department spokesman said 5 other district postal workers have symptoms that are consistent with anthrax, waiting the results to see if they actually have the disease. John in Columbus, you're on the air.
Yeah, I think when people ask why do people hate the United States, I think it's an indication, I think, of the total mind control of the corporate media in this country. Hasn't given them any kind of a background. And I think other people have got to get other sources like Z Magazine or ZMag.org, CNET.org.
Okay, bye-bye. Now I know who that guy is. It seems like I have to hang up on him all the time because he just blathers on at the mouth, and before it got too far along, I just moved on. Hi, Joe. Are you there, Joe?
Joey.
Yeah. You're on the air.
What was that?
What was what?
That last call.
He's called here before. I'm sure he'll call again.
Unbelievable.
Well, he just tries pushing some magazine or something. I don't know what he's.
Of course, it's hard to. Fit in with Norm Izzy too. I mean, I'm glad you squeaked me in here.
Well, yeah, I'm taking a few calls, and I'll go back to Norm because I want to find out what's going on with what do we think might happen next? That's what I'm.
Norm's. I've listened to him on the Pinwheel station, and he is a radical. But
I don't know if he's a radical. I would say he's very passionate when he speaks. Sounds like his head's going to explode.
Well, he makes a lot of sense, though.
Well, he was saying this for a long time, and everybody thought he was a crackpot or something, and now it's all come home to roost, and now all of a sudden people are going to his organization and other organizations trying to find out what they missed out on in the past 50 years because they didn't feel like doing any homework because they were too busy worrying about what's for dinner.
Well, if Norm's listening, hey, Norm, I've listened to you. Hello, how are you? Have a good life.
Now, what's your point, Joe?
Rick, have you ever been to a family reunion as a guest?
Well, of course.
And all of a sudden there's a fight?
Yeah, I've seen that happen.
Between the families?
Yeah.
And you try and jump in, and then all of a sudden you're the one getting the crap knocked out of you?
Yeah, I know. That's like what cops say. The worst ones are domestic disputes because all of a sudden now the husband and wife turn on the third party.
Exactly. And that's what's happening with us right now in Israel. And I know a lot of people are going to get ticked off, but I really firmly believe in my heart that this all boils down to Israel.
Well, it all boils down to Palestine and Israel and that sort of thing.
Exactly.
And I mean, it's getting to the point now where Ariel Sharon is saying, we're going to do whatever we're going to do, whether the United States says that's bad or not.
Well, they're rolling tanks into the West Bank, and they showed a picture in the paper today of a kid throwing a slingshot at a tank. I mean, what is going on? I mean, don't you think that is the problem? I mean, don't you think the Jews have to be accountable for their actions in all of this.
Well, we support the state of Israel, and we have since 1947. And we have a commitment in that part of the world and to the people of Israel. And that I don't think that's going to change unless they blatantly do something that we beg them not to do.
Okay, Rick.
Yes.
I live in a very diverse apartment complex. I've got Romanians, I've got Indians, I've got Mexicans living here in my section, okay? And we all get along. What I am saying is the Jews, the Israelis, have got to be accountable for their actions in all of this nonsense.
Well, everybody has to be accountable. Joe, I have to run because I'll tell you, yeah, that's going to light them up. And no, I don't think it was meant to be an anti-Semitic comment, and I'm certainly not an anti-Semite. I think everyone has to be accountable for their actions. And it's the news. I mean, I saw it on the news. Ariel Sharon is popping off and saying, we're going to do whatever we got to do. Well, you got to do it tactfully a little bit. Isn't that what we're trying to do? Instead of just throwing your weight around. And they got a lot of fancy armor going on over there. They got a lot of heavy equipment. So when they say they're going to throw their weight around, it's worthy of listening to and trying to get along and at least get them some... Gee, I don't know. It gets to the point where you can't tell entire countries what to do. This is just all... It makes your head swim. Hi, Myron. You're on the air.
Yes, how you doing this evening?
I'm all right.
Yes, listen to that other caller. That was kind of ironic that he says the Jews are responsible. Both parties have to give them what they need to survive. The Jews need security, the Palestinians need land. But the reason I called was there's a passage in the Quran, a Muslim friend of mine spoke to me about it some time ago, that says if your neighbor does something to you in war, you do that to them. And if we target them the way they target us, I don't think they have any appetite for suicide bombing. And that's my comment. I'd like to hear your opinion on that.
All right. Well, my opinion is that I think I need a better understanding of the Quran, and I have to get a copy of that and read the Book of Repentance. I'd like to speak with someone who's actually Muslim who might be able to help me out. Brian in Lakewood, go ahead.
Hey, Gilly, thanks for taking my call.
You're welcome.
Important thing, in terms of what Joe said, we have to remember who the enemy is. That if, in fact, Palestine had their own state, bin Laden would still want to eliminate the United States from the face of this planet.
Well, I think you're probably right. I don't think it would ever end. I think that they want this country brought down. They want to destroy the United States of America. They want to screw up our economy. That's why they didn't hit the Statue of Liberty.
Exactly. Gilly, that's why, in terms of what Joe was saying, you cannot blame it on Israel. Whether Israel existed or Israel did not, that's kind of like a straw man argument. You cannot bring them in the argument because they still want to destroy us. And the basic point is this.
And if the Palestinians had land, maybe it wouldn't be enough land. It would never be enough land.
Exactly.
I mean, the conflicts that we're getting involved with in the Middle East have been going on over there for thousands of years. Now, all of a sudden, we think we're going to fix it with one video game war?
Not at all. And here's another point, is that our Bill of Rights says we believe in separation of church and state. Bin Laden and the radical Muslims believe that it should be an Islamic state. There is only one democracy in any Muslim country, is Turkey, 1 out of 18. Muslims believe in an Islamic state. It is diametrically opposed to our Bill of Rights and our Constitution, which separates church and state. Thus, the Islamic and the Islamic fundamentalists want to destroy our beliefs. And that's a point that we cannot deny, and let's not lose sight. Like Charlie Manuel would say, keep your eye on the ball. Keep your eye on the enemy. The enemy wants to destroy us, Gilly.
I'm aware of it.
And people have to believe. See, but I don't think enough people realize that we have to keep our eye on the ball. And I know Norm Izzy would agree. And see, and another thing about Norm, I respect that man to the upstate degree, but he needs more solutions. He likes to name a lot of problems. I think I'd like to hear more solutions from Norm.
Okay. All right, appreciate it. We'll find out. I'll go right back to Norm Ezzy from We the People, a grassroots organization right now. We've been listening to the callers. The caller, previous caller there, just said that you offer up a lot of
Right.
A lot of problems.
All they need to do is go to www.Stormin Norm, not Stormin Norman, Stormin Norm with two N's, StorminNorm.com. And the solutions are right there, folks. It's really, really, really right there on my homepage. Okay, going back to American principles, moral values. I don't want to be preaching like I'm running for some kind of office, but the mission statement is on our homepage. The problem is we do have an identifiable problem. That caller was very correct in what he was saying. A little thing about Israel and Lebanon and Algeria and the Sudan and Egypt. I'll make a few statements because I have 11:15 meeting tonight, Rick, if you can believe that.
Oh, really?
And that's why I appreciate you giving me the opportunity. Oh, yeah, it's nonstop now. Arafat and Mubarak, you might as well consider them walking dead. These wolf pack, and that's what you need to understand, and these are military jargons I'm going to throw at you. These wolf packs that are over there, when Osama, which is basically, they've tagged him, Osama's now the pornographer of the Nation of Islam. You've got to get a kick out of that because there is humor in our military. Once this man goes, and make no mistake about it, he's got to go.
And he's got to go before November 15th.
November 17th, Ramadan, the holy days. That's another story which we'll be posting on our website. But the key here is, they have to kill Arafat and Mubarak in Egypt so the Hamas and the Hezbollah and all the other factions, because they have a wolf pack mentality. These people embrace death. We embrace life.
So they're not looking at just destroying the United States.
Well, let me tell you something. If you look at the Nation of Islam, Indonesia, Malaysia, the Philippines, Russia, a huge population of Muslims. China.
Yeah, China.
Now, let me say one other thing here about China, okay, which is our nemesis. Let's not make no mistake about that. But they've got a problem there. But one thing about China, they've got their military, they've got their million-man army to try to contain what's going on in China. You're not getting any information out of China. Now, there are also confirmations of those tunnels, those huge, huge tunnels. And you got to remember, the last guy to whack anybody in Afghan was Alexander the Great. So if you look at your globe, folks, you can see where Afghanistan butts up to China.
Yes.
So let's say if you got to have a tunnel rat, what better use of force than a million-man army, okay, to do what has to be done, which will probably take place within, I would say, the next 2 years. I'm giving you a target date of 2 years.
So you're telling me that the Chinese are going to go into Afghanistan?
In the next 2 years, as this thing escalates, unless we go, God forbid, controlled nuclear strikes, which some Congress people are now talking about. You know I talked about that to you about a week ago.
Yes.
Remember, my friend?
Yes.
Because we've got the capability, and again, folks, the good news is it's our technology versus their terrorism. But, Rick, what we need to understand are the container ships that are coming into our ports of call here in America. They're very vulnerable right now, okay? We're concentrating on airport security. We're concentrating on the gray dog, the gray bus, the greyhounds. We're an open society, I get a kick, and I got to mention the guy's name, Dick Fagler. He always talks about the Christmas past. My concern, folks, right now are the Christmases of the future. This Christmas here, we're all going to pretend to be happy. The malls, the shopping centers. Folks, this isn't me speaking. It's mainstream press telling you. We have to become our brother's keeper. And I know your buddy Trevisano likes to chuck and jive with his Kim sidekick. We need to all be heat-seeking missiles of information, credible information, and get it to the right people.
I was watching 2020, and they had a woman on there who's an American living in Israel. Mm-hmm. And she was giving advice to her brother who lives here on what she said, you look for any suspicious packages.
Right.
You keep an eye on somebody wearing a heavy coat on a hot day.
Rick, I got to tell you right now, because God love you, I love you, brother. Listen to me. I'm meeting postmen that work at the main post office on Orange Avenue tonight. I got to go downtown tonight. I should be in bed getting ready to suit up to go to work, right?
Right.
These people are concerned because guess what? As Congress runs, and I would love to swear, but I won't on your program out of respect to you, Mr. Davis. But guess what? These post people got to work. They got to handle our mail. And folks, that's just been the tweaking of our nose, the mail system. How about Federal Express? How about UPS? How about Airborne Express? Think about it.
All right, Norm. Well, thank you very much for checking
Listen, I appreciate it, Rick. I appreciate because I got to meet with these people. You got my numbers.
Yep. I'll keep in touch.
It's www.storminnorm.com, and God bless America.
All right. Thank you. Thank you much, Norm Ezzy from We the People. Yeah, what next? Well, the woman on 2020 that lives in Israel said you get used to terrorism, believe it or not. She said that everyone has a cell phone. Everyone, when they hear about something, she says, normally when there's one attack, there's not two. Normally there's just one terrorist attack. Normally it's not, but sometimes it's followed by a second one. Sometimes. And everyone calls their family members as they find out what happened and where to make sure everyone's all right. Everyone knows where everyone's going at all times. Her husband goes to the grocery store early in the morning. She said, terrorists don't want to strike when there's nobody there. Terrorists want to strike at a mall at the peak shopping hours, at the grocery store, at the peak hours when the store will be filled, the marketplace will be filled. She says you learn to lock your car doors. Not because somebody might steal your car, because they might run up and lob a bomb into your car. Or they might climb in your car and hold you at gunpoint and make you drive them somewhere and then blow both of you and the car up. Norm made a point to me a long time ago, and it makes a lot of sense. He said, you got to stop thinking like Westerners. You got to stop thinking we are Westerners and we think that this is the way an attack is probably going to happen and this is the other way an attack is probably going to happen. You have to start thinking like a sick, twisted, evil devil with no concern for human life whatsoever, and in a lot of cases, not even their own. Channel 3 weather from Eileen McShade tonight. Showers possible, maybe even some thunder out there. Low of 50. I was outside enjoying a cigarette, and it looks like the rain had about stopped here, but who knows. Tomorrow, more showers in the morning are possible. Then it should clear out upper 60s. Currently 58 degrees in Cleveland, 58. And when you wake up tomorrow, check out Glenn Beck, you sick freak. He's the new midday host. It's 9 a.m. That's what the midday host is. 9 a.m. That's America and Glenn Beck, and they're united on News Radio, WTAM 1100. And do me a favor, would you, if you tune in Glenn Beck? Check back in the next time I'm on the air and tell me if you don't think he sounds a little like William Shatner with his measured delivery. Not a knock on Glenn Beck. I want to have you check in. I mean, am I nuts? Am I the only guy that thinks that he sounds a little bit like William Shatner? All right. Well, get them. It looks like the lines. I don't even know why I should bother giving out the phone number. The lines are all lit up. What next? Who knows? But stop thinking like a Westerner. We have to sit around and start thinking it could be anywhere, it could be, and it's not paranoia. It's the truth. What about UPS and FedEx and this and that? What about trucks? What about containers? That's why truck drivers out there have to be the eyes of the night. We've all got to start being, as Norm said, our brother's keeper. That's what we all have to be. I'm Rick Gilmour. This is America United on Cleveland's only news radio station, WTAM 1100.
Americans should not expect one battle, but a lengthy campaign, unlike any other we have ever seen.
Rick Gilmour.
I have never cheated on a woman ever. Ever. Ever.
On News Radio WTAM 1100.
That's I. This is America United. America Strikes Back. Process some of these calls. I know you've been waiting a long time. Gets busy around here. All right, John, you're on the big one.
Hey, Mr. Gilmour, how are you?
Fine.
I just wanted to let you know when I was over in Germany how they handled terrorism there.
Okay. Yeah, something else that woman in Israel said was you never let children touch any strange packages.
Well, that's common sense there.
A lot of it was common sense, but we didn't have to think about that before the 11th of September.
I want to let my children touch something I don't know exactly what was containing. You know what I'm saying?
Well, yeah, I guess it might be just common sense.
Right. Well, I was over there in Germany. I got to answer.
Sir, you can't talk like that. What kind of language was that to use on the air, sir? John and Bay, you're banished from this program. Never to grace the halls of WTAM 1100 again. He said we shouldn't trust people and listed all sorts of different types in the worst possible terminology. And, sir, we just cannot have that. I'm checking my email as we speak. I've got one, Wake Up America, another one, The Koran Online. Well, that's interesting. I'll have to check that out. And you'll check out right now coverage of what in the world's happening. This is America United on Cleveland's only news radio, WTAM 1100. Here's Cliff Bakley.
Cleveland's only news radio. Your official weather station. The home of the Indians, Cavaliers, and Browns fans. This is the big one. Now, Continuing coverage on News Radio, WTAM 1100, Cleveland.
We're upset, but we know what we got to do. And the mission is to bring these particular terrorists to justice.
America United.
These are evildoers. They have no justification for their actions.
Rick Gilmour on News Radio WTAM 1100.
That is iPhone number here, 578-1100, and the 216 area code, toll-free, 888-723-WTAM. Be here until midnight when you can listen to Dreamland right here on the big one. John, you're on the air.
Maybe some people have seen this man, James Band.
The same John that called before. The same John from Columbus. He called back again to talk about some book or something like that. Hi, Sandra.
Hi.
How are you?
Fine. How are you?
Oh, dandy.
Well, my point that I want to make is sometimes I feel like our government is dragging their feet. When I've listened to politically incorrect on television at night,
yes.
I've heard people referring to the fact that there was information out there that some kind of attack on a building was going to be tried. They're referring to things that I haven't heard of elsewhere, but you may have heard of that.
Well, every time that something happens, there's always folks that come out and say, you were warned, we were warned. We knew this was going to happen. It happened after Pearl Harbor. They said, we were warned. We warned you the Japanese were going to attack somewhere. And, well, there's always people out there with doom.
Well, I don't know. They're saying that they've had that information, but maybe it just wasn't being taken, seriously enough or followed up closely enough. But nevertheless, now I hear people talking about the facts that they might be using smallpox as, bioterrorism. And I'm thinking, well, of course that's possible, but then why just talk about it? Why don't they get this inoculation program started? Don't wait until, it happens.
Well, Tommy Thompson said that he thought we should have 300 million vaccines ready to go, just in case something would happen.
Right.
Well, before they were saying, don't panic, don't worry about it, nothing's going to happen. Now, all of a sudden, 300 million vaccines.
I'm saying maybe they should even start vaccinating people.
Well, some people can get sick from it, though, and if you have a problem with your immune system and that sort of thing.
But if the majority of the people, that don't have these serious illnesses, if they were offered right now, I'd go and get one. A booster.
It's funny you mentioned that, because I think if they offered one, I'd probably take my chances and go and get one, too, because they said all the people that got smallpox vaccines when they were little kids, that's all worn off by now.
That's right. And it didn't kill most of those children. In fact, maybe it has had some people that have died from it, but I haven't heard of that. It's more the people that are living now that have a weak immune system.
And what about diphtheria? What about typhus?
Well, all the more reason that the other normal people should have, since these are, physically contagious between people, that they should start, doing this so that it doesn't spread like wildfire.
Yeah, you make a good point. If they think it's coming, then why don't we get those 300 million vaccines produced, and let's start giving people vaccinations, and let it be up to them if they have a compromised immune system whether or not they feel like they should get one anyway. Maybe they should wait. You can take it after you've been exposed. I guess you do not have any symptoms of smallpox for, according to the guy I saw in 60 Minutes, Dr. D.A. Henderson, who was in charge of trying to eradicate smallpox in the 70s and 60s and the 70s and the 80s. I think it was pretty much all gone by about 1980. He said, you can have it for up to 10 days, I guess, before you start showing signs of what happens is you start getting flu-like symptoms, and most people go to bed because they feel so ill. And then they start getting the rash, the pox all over you that, of course, will mark you for life and scar you. I guess it's a pretty awful thing. And by that point, you're so sick, they said it was highly unlikely that anyone would be a suicide smallpox bomber, so to speak, because if they were just to get sick and then cough and suspend this in the air, people could get sick, but he said by the time you get that sick, you can't function. You wouldn't be able to get out of bed to be able to go out and make people ill. Here's an interesting email I got at Gilly@WTAM.com. While the American public pays attention to the namby-pamby, politically correct liberal media telling the U.S. how terrible it is that bombs are missing targets, The forces of the Al-Qaeda are plotting the further undermining of the people's confidence in the leaders that are steering a course of action for the elimination of their evil kind. Over 230 Marines died in Saudi Arabia, 15 Americans died in African embassies, 17 sailors died aboard the USS Cole, and the Americans did nothing. And people wonder why the Al-Qaeda thinks Americans are soft. While we're dreaming of the past, during the Billy BJ era, they were plotting these despicable attacks. I have been personally touched by the Al-Qaeda and its terrorist reach. My son was an injured sailor aboard the USS Cole. And what did the president, the government, or the public do to atone for his duty to each and every one of us? You know that answer, Gilly. I commend and support each and every action George W. Bush is taking to ensure that my grandchildren's children will be able to enjoy the same freedoms we all took for granted until September 11th, 2001. God bless and keep each and every one of us. Well, amen and hallelujah. Hey, Randy.
Yes.
Go right ahead. You're on the air.
I'm on the air.
Yes, sir.
Well, first off, I want to let you know it's the first time I've ever talked on a talk radio before, and I think that you were probably the only one that I really wanted to talk to at this point. I really believe in what you say, and I've heard a couple things that you've put across that have been actually entertaining. I loved your analogy how we should rebuild the Trade Center. First person I heard say that.
Oh, rebuild it like up yours, pal. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that 4 small buildings with 1 large one in the middle.
Yep.
As if we're saying we're number 1.
Yep.
I love that. Anyways, I guess I get a little history here. I'm a restaurant manager. I talk to god-awful amounts of people. I'm a service manager of Hometown Buffet, and I seem to have a large compassion to get as much information as I can. I've never been like this before in my life. I heard you earlier today make a statement that previous to 9/11, you never really gave a crud of anything that was happening over there because you didn't pay attention.
Well, that's right.
That was me. I mean, you know.
That was kind of me, too. I mean, I reported stuff that I talk about stuff on the radio that people want to talk about, and nobody ever wanted to talk about that. I brought up the coal, and nobody cared less when that happened.
Yeah.
It was a shame, but no one cared.
Right. And I guess that's what I'm, in essence, that I'm trying to say here, that I cannot believe the compassion that I guess that I have at this point. Anyways, what I just don't understand, I'm hearing Bush talking about how he's going to end this, and we're not going to stop until we're finished. Now, I want to know why we can't rally the world to admit the fact that they got to bite their pride up a little bit here, and if they can't just for the fact bite their pride to get along with the Americans, then let's do it for the people that were killed in that tower. And we can use that as an excuse to buffer the fact that their pride will be hurt because they're going to actually commit to fight with the Americans. And if we have the whole world in a commitment and a committee type thing with nobody having any more power than anybody else, and they're all of equal power, and that's every power of the world at this point other than our problems over there in the Middle East, and then we take this fighting army and we more or less just go into martial law into the Middle East. Go in there in a reconnaissance mission. People that I hear are constantly making the comment, other countries that is, well, we actually stand behind America, but we hope they don't blow up any innocent people, and, you know, they stick just straightly to military targets. So if they have as much concern about not hurting the innocent people over there, the solution of taking a massive army with the thought process to go into the Middle East in a reconnaissance mission, get the innocent people out of the way, and continue to march to the middle until they meet, then they get the government. And at this point in time, I mean, I guess it's a lot to be put for interpretation on what you would go ahead and do, but I couldn't understand why we couldn't let them govern themselves by taking the bad people and, well...
I mean, in an ideal world, one would say that no government would want to sponsor terrorism, would they?
Right.
But then there's governments like Saddam Hussein, who we liked for a while and now we hate.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like when you plan a project at home and you say, okay, I'm going to put this shelf together I got from the store, and it's only going to take me about 20 minutes, and 2 hours later you finally get it done. And we plan on having a war of some sort that's going to be quick and easy, and I don't think there's any more quick and easy.
Right.
We got to get people to agree to let us come into their countries, and apparently there's a lot of Islamic fundamentalists who say that we don't want Americans on our soil or the influence of their decadence.
Yeah.
Now, if they were starving to death and we were giving them money, that would be another story.
Right. But I'll tell you, that's the thing I guess I can't understand. Here they are, they're saying in one breath that they're with us. If they're with us, I think that that's a total commitment. It's not a commitment to, well, yeah, you can fly our airspace, but you can't land in our airfields. We have a certain portion of commitment, whatever works for us. I think at this point in time, with the sacrifices, if you look at it that way, of the people of the Trade Center, with the excuse to give the world to say we have to do something, we have to stop terrorism, we all have an interest in stopping terrorism, and you can't just go over there with Americans only and dictate what they're going to do. But
Randy, I've got an idea. I know what might work.
Okay.
And now this would involve them doing something very stupid on their part. If they pulled what they pulled in Russia and in China, what they pulled in America. Now, can you imagine the standing armies of China and Russia and the United States all deciding, you know what? We're deciding now that there's only going to be 3 world powers.